It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of February 26, 1993. Only 3 movies to look at today, so let's not waste any more time. Let's jump on into it, and we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Michael Douglas and Joel Schumacher's Falling Down. Good luck trying to remake this movie in 2022. Um, yeah, 30 years after this movie came out, this movie becomes a little more to talk about because of everything that has happened in the world since then. But I mean, at least in my opinion, I really like this movie. But I like it as kind of a It's weird. It's gonna sound crazy. It's terrible for me to say this, but I like this as kind of a fantasy. Like it, I mean, the basic premise of this movie is Michael Douglas is this guy who's just having a terrible, terrible day, and then just all these things keep happening to him, and he just gets pushed to an extreme level, and he just goes off on this incredibly violent rampage, and it's you would never do this in real life, but I don't know, like we've all been in this kind of situation before, but we've never been in this situation that goes to this extreme of a level. And this movie, I think this movie really is one of those movies where you look at it and you got to think to yourself, like, this cannot happen in real life. In movie world, you could buy into this. This is kind of like it's kind of like a modern day version of Death Wish, kind of, except instead of Charles Bronson actually doing his job to save the day, this guy's doing it just because that he's just so fed up with the world. And like I said before, a lot of people I think can relate to William Foster in this movie. He's just has all these things that are just get on his nerves, just pushes him to these other levels that he could snap at any moment, and he snaps in this movie, and it's just like it's a. I mean, it's hard to talk about this movie because of how the world has become in the 30 years since then, but I still really like this movie a lot. I like it because Michael Douglas just sells this role, and honestly, I think a normal person can relate to what this situation, but a person with a smart brain and the fact that they don't have any violent tendencies knows that to never ever do this in real life because you will probably get killed right away and not even or even get shot or even get sent to jail. Because I mean, you see me stumbling here because it's really hard to talk about this movie nowadays, especially since the way the world has gone since this movie in the 30 years since this movie came out. And like I said before, it would be hard to remake this movie in modern times. Like I really don't think you could even remake this movie in modern times. But as you take it as a movie as it is, it's a very good movie. Like Michael Douglas really sells this performance, and and like I said, you feel for this character. It's like this is just it's like I said before, it's kind of a fantasy type of situation where like you would want to do this, but at the same time you have to have common sense to not do this in real life because obviously of the circumstances that are involved. And you got a great performance by Robert Duvall in here as the cop that's on a day of his retirement, who's basically coming back in to stop this guy from going crazy. And it's kind of a fun black comedy too. Like there are like those scenes in the trailer you see, they do lead to a lot of really funny over the top gonzo moments. And it's a and it's hard for me to really delve into this movie considering the plot itself and how it kind of is it still kind of remains a timeless movie considering everything that's happened in the decades since then. But I mean, like I said before, you take this movie as a fantasy, take it as a piece of fiction, and it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun in a black comedy thriller type of way. But yeah, bottom line, don't ever do this in real life. But if you want to see one of Michael Douglas's best performances ever, this is definitely the movie I'd recommend because Falling Down's a pretty damn good movie, and hey, one of Joel Schumacher's best movies too. So I could go into more, but I'll just leave it there, and I'll let you guys delve into what you thought about this movie because I mean I think I've pretty much said everything I need to say right now about it. But anyway, that's Falling Down, and with that said, let's go ahead and get off that movie and go to the next movie that we have here, and that is Robert Rodriguez's directorial debut, El Mariachi. So this was the movie that introduced the world to Robert Rodriguez, as you hear in the trailer. Columbia Pictures put this out 2 years ago. They put out the first movie by John Singleton, Boys in the Hood, and that became a classic movie. And this movie became a classic movie as well, and went on to have a loyal cult following to the point where Sony actually made this into a franchise with Desperado coming out a couple years later, and then 8 years after that we got Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And while this movie definitely is the weakest of the three movies, I think it's still a very, very good movie. Like the fact that Rodriguez put only about $7,000 into this movie, and it turned out into this beautiful looking film, a visually stunning looking film, and a film that really works because you get invested with these characters. This is a story that's been done over and over again. It's nothing new, it's nothing exciting, but just the way it's shot, the way the action sequences pan out, the way the visuals play out, the way the acting works, you can't help but really be impressed by what they did, by what Robert Rodriguez has done here. It's an incredibly made film, a fantastic film overall. It's a film that I can't recommend enough. Go see El Mariachi, especially if you're a big fan of Robert Rodriguez's work. See the film that made him into a superstar. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and the last movie, I should say, and that is the documentary Visions of Light. Okay, so I couldn't find a trailer. I had to take a little clip from the Siskel and Ebert review for this. Basically, this is a documentary talking about the art of cinematography, talking about the concept of cinema at the turn of the 20th century, and you have these different filmmakers and cinematographers talking about their views and discussing why the art of cinematography is important within the craft of filmsmanship. And you see some notable names in here, including Michael Chapman, Ernest Dickerson, Conrad Hall, Caleb Deschanel. Looking at the list here, John A. Alonso, Victor J. Kempa, Vittorio Sotaro, Gordon Willis, just a lot of names here. And these filmmakers talk about these films. They go all the way back to films of the late 1800s, stuff like the 1925 Ben-Hur, The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, The Magnificent Amberson, Citizen Kane, a lot of Alfred Hitchcock movies, all the way up to films like Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas and Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. It just looks like a movie that really honestly could be remade today with some of the cinematographers that we've had since then. I would like to hear some stuff from people like Roger Deakins, even some guys that have become filmmakers of their own, Barry Sonnenfeld, John DeBont, Andrei Bartkowiak. There's some other names I'm trying to think of. Give me 1 second here. Of course, Janusz Kaminski, Larry Fong, Emmanuel Lubezki, Matthew Libatique, Wally Pfister. There's so many names that you could put into this list that probably would make for a really solid remake of this series if they get more people to do this. But it looks like it could be a pretty good documentary to see. I like this idea of hearing these filmmakers talking about their craft and how they're able to establish these shots and all that. I think it could be something that could be very much worth watching one day, and I might do that just once. And like I said before, this could be something that they could eventually do a remake of, or at least a continuation of, to hear these modern day cinematographers and filmmakers talk about their craft and all that. And it could be a ton of fun. So that's pretty much all I got to say about Visions of Light. So with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll jump into a new month on the next episode, looking at March 5th, with 7 movies, including Robert De Niro, Uma Thurman, and Bill Murray in Mad Dog and Glory. Also Nicolas Cage and Samuel L. Jackson in Amos and Andrew. We also have Best of the Best 2, Swing Kids, Shadow of the Wolf, Rich in Love, and The Stolen Children. So 7 movies to look at next time around, and we'll delve into those in the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.